Today we will examine the subject of the tithe as it pertains to the administration of Moses, otherwise known as the Mosaic Law. We ask that you set aside any preconceived ideas you may have and listen with your full attention. As a matter of review, the word tithe means a tenth, or simply 10%. The story of Moses occurs about 400 years after the story of Abraham. We discussed in our previous session that Abraham gave a tithe of the spoils when he defeated another king in a battle. Abraham may have given a tithe to the civil government at the time as a form of taxation, but this is never clearly stated. Moses was born about 1400 BC. Moses was a descendant of Levi, who was a descendant of Abraham. The story of the Exodus from Egypt occurs around 1290 BC. Moses becomes a leader and prophet for the Jewish nation. We find the tithe mentioned in the 27th chapter of the book of Leviticus, starting in verse 30. It reads as follows: "A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord, for it is holy to the Lord." The passage goes on to say that a tenth of the flock is holy to the Lord's. The passage ends by stating that these are the commands the Lord gave Moses on the mountain for the Israelites. The word holy simply means set apart. Notice that these commands or laws were given specifically to the people of Israel and not for any other nation. The Exodus from Egypt was portrayed in a movie produced in 1956. It is a classic movie that is still played each year on various movie platforms. This provides context for the fact that the Jewish people became a self-governing nation with rules and regulations and structure. The tithe became part of the societal structure for specific means and purposes, as we shall see. Leviticus 27:30-34. "Thus all the tithe of the land, of the seed of the land, or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. If therefore a man wishes to redeem part of his tithe, he shall add to it 1/5 of it. For every 10th part of herd or flock, whatever passes under the rod, the 10th one shall be holy to the Lord. He is not to be concerned whether it is good or bad, nor shall he exchange it. Or if he does exchange it, then both it and its substitute shall become holy. It shall not be redeemed." These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the sons of Israel at Mount Sinai. It should be noted that this command was for a specific group of people in a specific geographic area at a specific time in history. This is what is known as audience relevance in biblical interpretation. We now refer to the book of Numbers 18:20-32. "The Lord said to Aaron, 'You will have no inheritance in their land, nor will you have any share among them. I am your share and your inheritance among the Israelites. I give to the Levites all the tithes in Israel as their inheritance in return for the work they do while serving at the tent of meeting. From now on, the Israelites must not go near the tent of meeting, or they will bear the consequences of their sin and will die. It is the Levites who are to do the work at the tent of meeting and bear the responsibility for any offenses they commit against it. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. They will receive no inheritance among the Israelites. Instead, I give to the Levites as their inheritance the tithes that the Israelites present as an offering to the Lord. That is why I said, concerning them, they will have no inheritance among the Israelites." The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Levites and say to them, 'When you receive from the Israelites the tithe I give you as your inheritance, you must present 1/10 of that tithe as the Lord's offering. Your offering will be reckoned to you as grain from the threshing floor or juice from the winepress. In this way, you also will present an offering to the Lord from all the tithes you receive from the Israelites. From these tithes you must give the Lord's portion to Aaron the priest. You must present as the Lord's portion the best and holiest part of everything given to you. Say to the Levites, when you present the best part, it will be reckoned to you as the product of the threshing floor or the winepress. You and your households may eat the rest of it anywhere, for it is your wages for your work at the tent of meeting. By presenting the best part of it, you will not be guilty in this matter. Then you will not defile the holy offerings of the Israelites, and you will not die. We should review the main points here. The tithe was not monetary in the sense of a coin or currency, but rather the tithe was of the land. One might say it was earthy or of the earth. The Levitical priests were not allowed to earn an income outside of the tithe. They were also not allowed to own property such as land or a house, nor were they allowed to have an inheritance of any kind. The grain and herds were for them to use as payment in exchange for the service that they alone could do at the tent of meeting. It is important to place this in a historical context. There has not been a tent of meeting nor a Levitical priesthood for thousands of years. Some have attempted to compare a pastor or other religious leader of today to the former Levitical priest. One must consider many factors in doing so. Does a pastor or other religious leader today enjoy the right to own land, houses, cars, pensions, family inheritances, outside income, such as network marketing, which may include selling books or monetizing social media platforms? Does the wife of a pastor have an income that they share? We could compile quite a list, but the point here is the attempt to compare modern ministry models with the tent of meeting and the Levitical priesthood is a comparison built on a flimsy house of cards. Deuteronomy 12:5-11. This passage provides instructions to the Israelites after crossing the Jordan. It mentions the tithe, but we will take the time to look at the instructions as a whole in order to provide context. Traveling to the Promised Land sets up a scenario where the tent of meeting becomes a centralized temple made of stone. The people would grow and expand and, in the future, would need to travel a distance to get to the temple where resides the Levitical priests, along with all of the offerings. The passage reads as follows: "But you shall seek the Lord at the place which the Lord your God will choose from all your tribes, to establish his name there for his dwelling, and there you shall come. There you shall bring your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the contribution of your hand, your votive offerings, your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. There also you and your households shall eat before the Lord your God, and rejoice in all your undertakings in which the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall not do at all what we are doing here today, every man doing whatever is right in his own eyes, for you have not as yet come to the resting place and the inheritance which the Lord your God is giving you. When you cross the Jordan and live in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, and he gives you rest from all your enemies around you, so that you live in security, then it shall come about that the place in which the Lord your God will choose for his name to dwell, there you shall bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes, and the contribution of your hand, and all your choice votive offerings which you will vow to the Lord, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levite who is within your gates, since he has no portion or inheritance with you." We can ascertain from that passage that as the people traveled and established camps, they would have a temporary place where God would dwell. They did this until they entered the Promised Land, where a more permanent structure would be built. It would behoove us to note that today God does not dwell in a temple made with stone, but rather God dwells in people who are referred to as living stones. We individually and corporately are the temple where God lives. Deuteronomy 14:22-29. This passage offers instructions on how the tithe is dispersed. Once again, pay close attention to the details about traveling a long distance. It reads as follows: "You shall surely tithe all the produce from what you sow, which comes out of the field every year. You shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place where he chooses to establish his name, the tithe of your grain, your new wine, your oil, and the firstborn of your herd and your flock, so that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always." If the distance is so great for you that you are not able to bring the tithe, since the place where the Lord your God chooses to set his name is too far away from you when the Lord your God blesses you, Then you shall exchange it for money, and bind the money in your hand, and go to the place which the Lord your God chooses. You may spend the money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen or sheep or wine or strong drink, or whatever your heart desires. And there you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God, and rejoice, you and your household. Also you shall not neglect the Levite who is in your town, for he has no portion or inheritance among you. At the end of every 3rd year you shall bring out all the tithe of your produce in that year, and shall deposit it in your town. The Levite, because he has no portion or inheritance among you, and the alien, the orphan, and the widow who are in your town, shall come and eat and be satisfied, in order that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. We would like to make a particular note in this passage that in light of travel by foot over a long distance, God, through the agency of the writer, gave an unusual instruction to keep the tithe. The tithe being grain, oil, wine, or animals from the herd. The chosen people of God are here instructed to keep it first for themselves by selling it in exchange for money, then taking that money and buying whatever they desire. It lists oxen, wine, and strong drink. The instruction goes on further to say, eat, drink, and be happy. In other words, to celebrate or have a party is an act of worship to God. Imagine a pastor today giving that word of encouragement in a sermon to the people. What if a pastor today told the people it was okay to spend the tithe on themselves? Yet this is exactly what the Jewish people were told, albeit they were not to forget or neglect the Levite, the traveling stranger, the orphan, and the widow. They were expected to set aside money, food, and drink for them. It seems like these instructions were a good idea for society to ensure everyone was taken care of. Deuteronomy 26:12-15. This passage gives a summary of instructions previously given with additional instructions. We will read the whole passage to provide context. Pay close attention to the way this is worded. Does it seem transactional more than relational, or vice versa? It reads as follows: When you have finished paying all the tithe of your increase in the 3rd year, the year of tithing, then you shall give it to the Levite, to the stranger, to the orphan, and to the widow, that they may eat in your towns and be satisfied. You shall say before the Lord your God, I have removed the sacred portion from my house, and also have given it to the Levite and the alien, the orphan and the widow, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed or forgotten any of your commandments. I have not eaten of it while mourning, nor have I removed any of it while I was unclean, nor offered any of it to the dead. I have listened to the voice of the Lord my God. I have done according to all that you have commanded me. Look down from your holy habitation, from heaven, and bless your people Israel, and the ground which you have given us, a land flowing with milk and honey, as you swore to our fathers. That was the people talking to God, and now here is the response of God back to the people. This day the Lord your God commands you to do these statutes and ordinances. You shall therefore be careful to do them with all your heart and with all your soul. You have today declared the Lord to be your God, and that you would walk in his ways and keep his statutes, his commandments, and his ordinances, and listen to his voice. The Lord has today declared you to be his people, a treasured possession, as he promised you, and that you should keep all his commandments, and that he will set you high above all nations which he has made for praise, fame, and honor, and that you shall be a consecrated people to the Lord your God, as he has spoken. This concludes our look at the tithe under the administration of Moses. We ask that the jury take a time out and then go back to look at the evidence again. The tithe, in essence, was a paycheck for religious service, that service being for a specific people in a specific place at a specific time in history. Next on the docket, we will look at the tithe as it pertains to the writings of the prophets such as Nehemiah, Amos, and Malachi. Then we will consider what Jesus taught, as well as the apostles, concerning the tithe. We will rest our case with a look at church history and how various doctrinal stances have evolved.